I would like to share with you our COVID journey. It started on March 14 when I brought Senny to Perpetual Health Hospital because she was feeling bad. We were both x-rayed and surprisingly, Senny's x-ray was clear while mine showed I had low-grade pneumonia. They wanted to confine me, but I refused and I signed a waiver. The medicines given to Senny did not improve her condition, and I finally brought her to the Las Piñas Doctors Hospital on March 16, where she was confined for asthma, cold, and fever. I was feeling fine, so I stayed with her. I asked her sisters and our children to pray for us. Her niece started a novena for healing for her. While waiting for room assignments that day, we learned that Jomar and Phil also have pneumonia. Jomar was intubated in the Makati Medical Center, and Phil was still looking for a hospital who would accept them. We prayed intensely for their healing. I prayed over Zenny, asking God to heal her and praying that what she had is not COVID. Full of hope, I kept on asking God to allow us to go home the next day. But the next day was not to be. We were saddened to learn that Jomar was gone. It was then that the thought that we might also be infected with COVID crept into my consciousness. Worms of fear started to creep into my mind. Later that day, we were interviewed by her doctor, checking our activities in the last 2 weeks for contact tracing. Both of us had contacts with people who were suspected to have COVID. We told her that Jomar and Phil were suffering, also from pneumonia and may have COVID. We were also in contact with Dwight during our household prayer meeting. Dwight died just this morning. I was seated beside Dwight and Senny was across him during dinner. I also had a meeting with our board in our company, and one of the board members died from COVID. They took swab samples from us, and we were moved to the isolation rooms on March 18. I didn't realize that Senny and I may have COVID, and both of us are maybe in a life-threatening situation. Although in separate rooms, we continued to pray for each other. Zenny asked me to pray the rosary before going to bed and upon waking. I was never a devotee of the Virgin and the rosary, but in the darkness of dawn, I turned to our Mother to fight the fear growing in my mind. I started to pray when I woke up. I had to struggle through the mysteries, but in the end of the last decade, my mind cleared, and I was full of hope, and I felt that with the grace of God, we will be victorious in this struggle. After 3 days in quarantine, we learned that Noli Medalia also had pneumonia and has to be intubated. I frantically asked the Central Luzon leaders to pray for Noli, Phil, and us, but God has His own plans. We were saddened when we learned that Phil died. We continued to pray for Noli, who a few days later also died. My heart bleed from the loss of a dear friend and a strong pillar in Central Luzon. My feeling of hope floundered. I started to sink in despair. It was only my daily prayers and praying the rosary that cleared my mind of this fear. After 5 days in isolation, we got the results, and the doctor told us we both showed negative. I was discharged the next day, but Senny had to stay behind because of her pneumonia. They took new samples from her that night. It turned out that Zenny was positive, and the doctor prescribed new medicines for her, azithromycin and hydrochloroquine. The next day when I was discharged, I went out to look for hydrochloroquine. I went throughout Las Piñas, Alabang, and Muntinlupa and did not find any. The following day, I asked my sons to help me look for hydrochloroquine. We prayed intensely that night. I prayed the rosary and asked the mother to help us find the medicine. And when my eldest son went to one of the mercury drugs near their house in Pilar Village, a branch where I already inquired, where they said that they did not have any. We were surprised they found on stock that there was just enough to just enough quantity to fill the prescription. All the way to the hospital to deliver the medicine, I was praising the Lord, thanking Him, praying, singing. Zenny started to take the prescribed medicine that same day. After 2 days, the doctor checked the dose that the nurses were giving and found that they were not giving enough. He prescribed doubling the dose, and we had to scramble all over again. And knowing how hard it was to get, I posted an SOS in our Bible groups and prayed really hard that night. When I came to the 5th decade and visualized Jesus breaking the bread, I knew that we will find what we need. God really surprised us with His generosity, and the community and our family were really wonderful. Help came all the way from Cabanatuan, from Tarlac, Balanga, Olongapo, and San Fernando. In Bacoor, Anna found the last stock of medicine in Mercury Drug, also the exact quantity that was in the prescription. They called me and they asked me how they can send the medicines. My family, Zenny's sisters, nephews, and nieces found a way to buy from Cainta and Marikina. My sons found a way to order hydrochloroquine for a friend who runs a hospital, but they had to order 2 boxes of hydrochloroquine to meet the minimum order quantity. Now we have so much more than what Zenny will ever need. We decided that we will leave some of the medicines for the hospital, and the rest we will keep for CFC members in case any one of us will need. God is so good and overly generous. It is now April 4. Zenny has recovered. She has been in the hospital for 20 days. The doctors told her that she can be discharged in a day or two, but suggested that she stay until she finishes her quarantine in the hospital. We agreed, since it will be better to keep COVID in check. This morning, in my prayer, I thank God, praying with my whole mind and body, like King David did. I prayed using Qigong movements to emphasize my words and feelings, praising God as I dance for His healing grace, thanking Him for His enduring and infinite love. And I thank God and I thank our Mother for interceding for us. Truly, God is great, and we have overcome COVID. And the country, with His grace, will overcome this disease. God also whispered in my mind as I finished my prayer, CFC will come out stronger than ever as a community if we continue to love each other as Jesus loved us. Amen.